All
I
right.
can give you some tips dealing with the foundry if you want.
Yeah. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 50 for the House of Holocrons podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. And in this night's episode, we're going to be talking about apprentices and, what is it, acolytes, the other name, servants almost for Sith. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite master and apprentice kind of like duos. And then, of course, we'll be talking about the difference in Jedi teachings versus Sith teachings and things like that, and how they kind of correlate between the relationship of master and apprentice. Um, I would say a great place to start is to notify that in the old Empire, the Sith had a very different view on pupil amount, but it
Yeah.
seems, yeah, in an original trilogy, it's always 1-to-1. We have Bane to thank for that in the
Yeah.
Sith, and we have
Well, that
tradition in the Jedi.
well originally that's when you got the idea of the term acolyte,
Yeah,
but after the kind of the rule of two, it's more of a apprentice at that point, and they kind of refer to
yeah.
him as apprentice.
Which, if anything
But
else,
yeah,
that's something I know a lot of people want to see live action. I know a lot of us want to see Darth Bane's creation of the Rule of Two in live action. I think that would be a absolutely stellar thing to actually get to really view and see, because Darth Bane's creation for pretty much the foundation of the modern Sith that we see
yeah,
throughout all of the saga of the Skywalker series, it's very, very much that rigid one master, one apprentice, except for Palpatine and Dooku and all that. That's some wibbly wobbly. You could call it
yeah.
what you want. Asajj Ventress isn't a Sith. Okay, dude, she does Force lightning. She like had Sith like she in the book. She trust me, she's a
She was
Sith.
considered, yeah, she was considered apprentice for Dooku.
Yeah. So and that's the other thing with the Sith is it's like the rule of two kind of handicaps them in a way, because if they could just openly get more students and not care about it, it'd probably be easier for them, because they're doing it anyway. Like the Sith don't follow
Yeah.
rules. That's the whole point.
But
But
yeah, it's like they decided to follow rules, but only to two people
right.
for the Sith. Yeah, it's
And
like
speaking on tutelage, let me just again say one of my favorite topics of all time, Pelagius, poor Pelagius. He, Pelagius the Wise, the terror that was his story. It's Palpatine, worst Sith master ever, in the books, in the comics, in the movies. Have you ever once seen him sit Vader, Dooku, or anyone down and literally try to teach them force magic or dark, aside from I'm going to torture you and make you use that hate and pain as your fuel for your dark side battery? He did not teach
yeah,
them anything.
it's he mostly just manipulates them into further down the dark side so that
Yeah.
he can use them as a tool and manipulate them even further.
And that is
Which you see
not
that with
common. And when it
Dooku, you
yeah.
see that with Anakin. Both of those his biggest tools. And he realizes Dooku isn't easy to manipulate because he's too mature and too wise, and so
Yes.
he eventually gets rid of Dooku. But yeah, he is a terrible master.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
as this
absolutely
is
terrible.
as more of a speech for the apprentices,
Yes.
also Sidious probably is a terrible apprentice.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love in the book, which isn't canon, but there's a Pelagius
Yeah,
book. Even Sheev's own father said when he was born, I felt like I should probably have like killed him. He was just so evil. So he was a horrible human being from the get go. It is the role of the apprentice in the Sith to continue, especially after Darth Bane's rule of two, to more or less, as I should
yeah,
say, continue their lineage and continue the rule of the Sith and their power by never being able to kill the master until they eventually get to a point of being so strong that they can take them down.
yeah.
That is the role of the apprentice in the Sith order, is to covet the knowledge of the master and the dark side and the power, and then take it from the master forcefully.
Yes, it came that way because everything, and that kind of honestly wasn't really fully on the Sith. It kind of was put in that way, though. A lot of that's not canon with the Sith Empire. Was
Yeah,
kind of really promoted that aspect, which they kind of borrowed from the Sith, of just take out your. If you want to get promoted, you want to get that rank.
yeah,
Instead of earning it, you just get rid of the guy that's ahead of you and you take his spot. And so that was really heavily promoted in the Sith Empire, which is the soldier aspect.
Hmm.
But it did originate within the Sith Order. But it got so bad, and honestly, it wasn't that terrible. It was more of Bane really just didn't want to be taken out.
Yeah,
That was really it. He didn't want to watch his back constantly.
right.
Um,
In the books, of course, he says that the Brotherhood of Darkness, which is what came before the Sith Order we know, was a weakness. He's always said things like they were diluting the cup of the dark side by just saying everyone's equal. But in the world of the apprentice and the master for the Sith, they are very much not equal. And that's constantly put into effect by, like, the master has no qualms with if he's failed taking a limb or choking or lightning or throwing the apprentice around to, like, literally show them, if you fail me again, I will destroy you. And that's a big thing that kind of like leads to the Sith's very own self-destruction, is the apprentices, especially in the Old Republic, team up, and then you have a bunch of weak apprentices taking down a stronger master.
Yeah, it happens, and the reason why you get that to happen is because with the dark side and the tendency to, and when you get in the Old Republic and we look at what we have to go off
Mm-hmm.
the Old Republic, they often treated them as actual slaves, and a lot of apprentices were actual slaves,
Yeah,
and so you were treated less than dirt as an apprentice, and as you're going, well, that term I believe they were still referring to them as acolytes
yeah,
because there's multiple of them, and you would have a master for often master from multiple apprentices, and that's when it would end up happening, because either the apprentices started to outnumber the masters because they had a short lifespan
mm-hmm.
compared to the Jedi, and so the apprentices started to outnumber the Sith. Um, Instead of weeding out the apprentices for the stronger, they were starting to weed out the masters. But again, I don't think it was necessarily to cull the Sith Order. I think it was
Yeah,
really Bane being more. He wanted to be in charge without worrying about people coming after him.
right. And the Bane that we see in, of course, the Clone Wars is pretty much the only canon we have seen of Bane, where he speaks with Yoda. Again, creator of the Rule of Two, which makes it far easier as well to tell a story in the movie verse, because then you don't have to worry about 97 billion random Sith Lords and all this kind of stuff. So it's a great plot device to have the Rule of Two. I don't think they should fully get rid of it, but I want it. There are other dark side cults that do things very differently. The Sith are very particular in their cruelty and their darkness of teaching. Not all dark side cults teach their apprentices or their students the same way that the Sith do. The Sith, again, are a very specific religion and sect of the Force.
I mean, even it was a great way to explain why there's so few Sith, but they
Mm-hmm.
really didn't necessarily have to make this big deal because Sidious is just as selfish. He would have easily separated from the Sith Order and either wiped him out a long time ago if he had
Mm-hmm.
the chance. Or because he doesn't play equals either.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't want to harp too much on the Masters. But yeah, um,
Well, and it sucks because we could always talk about, like, favorite apprentices, but most of the apprentices, like, there's very few that only stay an apprentice when it comes to the dark side. Many of them become like their own odd master. In the original
Or
trilogy, Vader's the best apprentice. In the prequels, Maul's the best apprentice to me. But the Clone Wars series, then you get Asajj Ventress, and she is awesome.
yeah,
She's awesome.
she never gets promoted.
It's
She kind of
true.
just does her own thing.
Yeah, like Maul does pretty much.
And the sad thing is most people don't know is Asajj actually, I don't know if you knew this, was going to be a major character in
Mm-hmm.
episode 2, and she kind of got scrapped.
Well, and she even had like the episode of Clone Wars that was supposed to be her finale, where she got like a love interest and like had a whole she got shafted a little bit. Justice for Asajj. I'm down for. Hey, if they want to give her a series, let's go.
But yeah, it's always the weird thing too. We get that because there's so few, so you get Dooku's technically the apprentice of Palpatine, but he also has Asajj, and then he gets Grievous, and then he gets who else does he get? Maul, and well, I guess no, Maul's technically Palpatine, isn't he? I
Right.
don't think he. Yeah.
Yeah, Maul is definitely a Palpatine apprentice, and then he leaves that and he gets a Savage when he becomes his own kind of Dark Lord. Dark Lord is a very important kind of like title, I would say, for those who do take on their own apprentice and kind of stray from Palpatine, because then they're attempting to take on that real Dark Lord title. That's pretty much what That's what Darth means, I believe, right? Darth is Dark Lord,
Yeah.
just in like Sith or
It's
something.
it's the Sith version of calling somebody a Jedi Master.
Yeah, exactly.
Darth is kind of like that title of getting the Master title,
Which is
and
why
then
when an
Darth.
apprentice, yeah, in Plagius or in and Palpatine's time, when you became a Darth, that is more or less when you were fully taken on as a 100% apprentice. You walked the way of the Sith and you joined your master. So of course, whereas he was Sheev Palpatine, he becomes Darth Sidious. Was Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. A lot of them have in this original trilogy and I would say the Skywalker saga, those are names that they even change and they assume a different identity almost when they become the Sith Lord to imbue more fear and power into like the galaxy around them. The Darth title is far harder to get when you go further back in time with the Sith Order.
Well, interesting. And when we get into the later, though, not everybody gets a Darth title.
Yeah.
For instance, Count Dooku doesn't get a Darth title. Snoke doesn't get a Darth title. He does get
Well, no.
an apprentice with Kylo Ren.
Dooku is Darth Tyrannus.
Oh yeah, you are correct. Thank you.
Yes,
forget
I know, and he never uses it. He never uses it for some reason. He's like the only one who's like, no, I have to go by Count Dooku because I can't go around calling myself Darth Tyrannus.
It's like a doctor getting knighted, you know. It's
yeah.
Like, no,
Sir
I'm
Doctor. Yeah, I'm Doctor Sir.
It's like should I call you Lord or Sir? And he's like, no, just Doctor.
Just Doctor. Yeah.
I spent 8 years getting that. I want to be called Doctor.
Well, what a great actor to have, because I think Sir Christopher Lee had like 17 different titles attached to him.
But yeah, one of the few ones, Snoke never has a Darth title.
Yes.
We don't get too much about him, but we do know there's a master and apprentice role between the two. We get in the Sith that end, though. Technically,
I guess technically he's the one who got the most teachings from Palpatine, since Palpatine kind of like just imbued him with powers and dark sideness. I don't know if
that's really teaching, though.
I guess not. It's the most Palpatine's ever done.
It's more like kind of like programming.
Yeah, there we go.
But we have the classic. We go on the Jedi, and Jedi's a lot different. Typically, once you get out of the early youngling stage, you do get linked up as an apprentice master 1-on-1, and they keep that pretty consistent.
Yeah.
There's been a few times where they show in the Clone Wars, but eventually you get a master.
Yeah.
And the master is weird with Jedi, that it's a title just for other people to call you. It's if you're apprentice to somebody, you can be called master without actually being the rank of Jedi Master.
Yeah.
Often knights will have their own apprentice, so they are referred to as a master because they have an apprentice. It's very confusing.
I would say I think a really good way to atone it is like the Jedi Order is almost like a Buddhist monasteries kind of system where they take care of each other, they do care about each other, but they're going to go through some fasting, some hardship, some sacrifice to build their inner willpower. Whereas the Sith are like the Marine Corps kind of thing, where they're going to tear you down and rebuild you as an ultimate killing machine, and you don't get a personality aside from what we tell you it is.
Yeah, and you get some early teaching typically with an older master. Yoda was famous for doing that.
That is, believe I called the creche, is when you were in a very youngling stage. The pods of younglings are called a creche, and they sleep in the same like bunk system. Yeah. They get to know each other really well. That's how like Obi-Wan knows Quinlan Vos and a few others.
We found out a lot about it, a little bit in the Clone Wars, and then quite a bit more in the High Republic books. They talk about.
Yeah.
They even talk about in the High Republic how that the younglings are actually encouraged to explore the sexuality. And
right.
Like that.
Now the High Republic is very different for Padawans than it is like even Jedi Knights in the High Republic were a little more frisque. It's very different. They were.
It seemed more though that it's kind of like the Amish. It's like go out and do your little fun, because when you get to a certain stage, it's
Right.
It's not, it's heavily discouraged.
Yeah, and even if you, so another book I'd recommend would be Padawan, which is about Obi-Wan as a very young Padawan, and even there he kind of talks about his own feelings towards two characters that he meets on a planet. So in a sense, even when Obi-Wan is young, he still has that ability to kind of explore himself, but that all changes. The Clone Wars is detrimental to the Jedi Order's way of teaching students. It causes rifts in constant master and students because a lot of masters died in the Battle of Geonosis, and a lot of students got promoted to Jedi Knight way before their time was actually really called for.
And there were still deaths during the Clone Wars that we don't get to see the focus on. It's very background because we get in kind of, we call kind of child friendly territory because of the cartoon.
Yeah.
But there's still mentions of because there's still war going on. And still masters and apprentice die.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but he mentions that he had several apprentices die during the Clone Wars. So not many of the apprentices actually wanted to be under him because he just happened to have apprentices. Just it happened. It wasn't really his fault. And you also get some Jedi Masters during the Clone Wars that got a little more radicalized with the war.
Anakin. Anakin drills Ahsoka like she is. Like, Anakin would be a great Sith teacher if, like, in the old Republic.
The Forum guy, he gets pretty radical.
Yeah.
And so you see a lot more change, though. Anakin and Ahsoka, the apprentice of the apprentice, and again we get that triple layer, because even though technically it's a weird gray area. I think on paper Anakin is still considered Obi-Wan's apprentice, and really a lot of that's kind of the council just doesn't want Anakin to be by himself. They're still worried about him.
Yeah, he gets knighted, but like, he gets knighted, but yeah, he still always has to, like, it's one of those things where Obi-Wan wants to check in, but also knows he needs to, because if he doesn't, Anakin, it's like if you left R2-D2 just free roam for too long. Eventually, trouble will happen.
He's instructed to, though.
Yeah,
he's that's the reason why they're still so close. Even because as a knight, Anakin should have left Obi-Wan a long time ago. They're supposed to separate so he could develop and grow, but the council wants Obi-Wan to still watch over him because they don't trust him.
And of course, they just make a very effective team. So if you're trying to make missions a success, send Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka, and they'll probably blow up more things than you want them to, but they will do what you want them to do.
Honestly, if you know what's interesting, if Ahsoka is, because of the power of apprentice, if she wasn't accused and wasn't put up and thrown out of the order, and she ended up being in episode 3 because of it, she would have probably turned the whole storyline around, because she still, even though Anakin was Anakin, he was more down to earth when it came to her, because he actually cared about her, and she had a sway over him, even though it's hard to believe.
Right.
So but and then we later get some greater ones where Obi-Wan takes up a new apprentice, which is Luke.
Or again, going back to the High Republic, those are some of the best relations, I think, though, because we have Yoda and the way he teaches in his comic, Bell Zettifar and Loden Greatstorm. Like, I know you love those two.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you how to control I'm going to teach you how to control yourself while falling from a cliff. How? Oh, look at that cliff. Push.
Well, speaking of, I don't want to cross too many boundaries, but I like the stress of, I'll say they do it in the movie too, of Anakin jumping out of ships and other characters jumping out of ships, and you go back to the High Republic, and that's like a Wednesday for them.
Right, everyone's jumping in ships, out ships. Who cares? Yeah, a lot of them use that force fall ability constantly. Like, that is not a secret technique.
For jumping out of a ship in episode 2, and they think he's crazy. But in High Republic, that's like, who lands their ship anyway?
Yeah, right. That's what the computer's for. The High Republic really does show some amazing relationships with Padawans, and even like Jedi Knights, where we have like Cantum Sai, who just leaves the Order in Midnight Horizon. Spoilers for the end of Midnight Horizons, but leaves the Order to investigate their own just personal loves and losses and stuff. We have so many Jedi that in the High Republic explore love and explore emotion through that Padawan phase, and then that like realization that, oh, that was fun, but saving the galaxy and being one with the Force feels far better.
Yeah.
Then they kind of like, that's like their way of evolving into what they're going to become, and there's
really
a lot of
is
growth in the Padawans.
golden age of Jedi during that time.
Mm-hmm.
They get really good at developing great Jedi. They get so arrogant with their ways. But yeah, we get some great apprentices during. Honestly, my favorite apprentices are actually post, at least for the Jedi side, or
Mm-hmm.
post the Jedi Order
Okay.
after it's fallen. Because you're thinking about Ezra or Jabba. You got Luke. You
Mm.
got um, Cal.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some more. You got Luke twice because he gets two different masters. He gets Yoda.
Right. Right.
He gets Yoda as a master for a bit. You get a bit Rey, though she doesn't really get to train too much. Um,
I'm sure she'll get some more,
yeah.
hopefully.
You get a little Grogu gets to be apprentice for a short amount of time
True.
as well.
For a nice little bit there, kind of gets control of himself. And then
It's
this time, because
funny,
it's very much one-on-one and there is no one else to interfere, they get very good lessons.
Yeah, it's and this is the period of time that we get from these characters that we don't get to see.
Well, I guess Luke
But
and Leia,
yeah,
that counts as a master and apprentice, doesn't it?
yeah. Though Leia doesn't really stay as long.
That's true.
She stays enough to learn the basics, but she's got her own
Yeah.
thing to worry about. For good measure, um, she, she gets tired of the new Republic and
Yeah.
starts her own little organization called the Resistance. In case you haven't heard of it.
Yeah. She's the leader of the Defense Coalition and stuff like that as well when it comes to the New Republic.
Yeah.
Just found that out in a recent thing. But so it's and comic book too. Like the Dark Droids one has been really good about that. But as far as I would say, when it comes to Jedi apprentices, yes, definitely post the fall of the Jedi, they are far better at learning again the true essence of what being a Jedi is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Definitely the fall of the Jedi is exactly that. We get to see a lot more of that, like arrogant, and again, it's all because the Sith plan forced them into a war, forced them to be hostile. That will slowly just destroy their monk attitude. And man, it worked. It worked like really well, like scary well. Great plan. The Sith laid a great plan out and just did this very, very slow, long rolled game. Which I can't imagine how hard that had to be, like finding an apprentice as the Sith Lords from Tenebris, from Plagueis, all of them, from Bane down. Just you have to find the perfect apprentice to take on your legacy, but not someone who might accidentally ruin the whole thing by getting so power hungry that they like reveal the Sith and try to start a new empire or something.
Well, the good thing, we get time to be picky. And the good thing about being a Sith, if you don't like your apprentice, you can just get rid of him.
You can just kill him. That is true. The second you realize, no, this guy might have too much of an ego. Yeah. Start over. And you live for like an extra 300 something years if you're a Sith, just because, dark side stuff.
Yeah. You get some nice little perks.
Yeah.
And not so good
You don't
perks,
look that great by the end of it. Like, you look like a pretty much just a wrinkled sack of skin, but, I mean,
You can't go in public anymore.
Yeah.
Ask Palpatine that one.
Right. Or Scion or like any other, like the other crazy old Sith Lords. They're all ugly as shit.
Maul.
Yeah.
Ask Maul. You can't really go in public anymore without hiding your face.
Right.
You might scare the average person. I mean, when you get so powerful enough, if you can't shroud yourself strong enough, I imagine you can't be around normal people at that
Right.
point. Just emanating the dark side. So yeah, but
But
yeah,
it's also something that they use because that's one of the biggest things that Vader as an apprentice learns, and that a lot of masters teach
yeah,
their apprentices as you are walking through this battlefield and you're like sowing death, or you're like with me and we're marching through as we get reverence by all these soldiers. Feed into that and let it, be that fuel for the fire. That was the thing with the dark side and like the Sith Order. I always loved in KOTOR the storyline where you join the Sith Academy and go through the Sith trials and you go through the Sith stuff. Like, it was very much like if you could, what is it? It's like the Dark Elves from Skyrim and from the Elder Scrolls series. I love it. They're like, oh, we don't care if you steal from people. We care if you're bad enough to steal and get caught. That's when we're upset with you. Just don't get caught. No one cares. If they attack you because you stole it, kill them. And they obviously didn't want it, did they?
well, even then they they really don't care.
Yeah.
And Skyrim, well, not Skyrim. When you get into Morrowind,
Yeah.
it's more of like bringing bad reputation back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's very interesting, um, how they do things. The model, the Master, the Apprentice,
Mm-hmm.
that's been stolen from our world. How a lot of things have been taught. The idea of the apprentice, it's originated from, there's been apprentices in Europe. Those typically when it comes to trades,
Right.
or some kind of skill, and then where it's either like you get the apprentice teaching you to be a knight. um, you can apprentice. It's not referred to as apprentice, but it's the same thing.
Right.
You get apprentice, like I said, for a trade, for being a blacksmith or being um, anything, any trade. And then you
Mm-hmm.
go into the eastern side of the world. When we look at that, they have their own apprentices, which
Yeah.
is kind of really where the ideas comes from, is the monk idea
Yep.
of master and apprentice.
And again, that's why
Uh,
like the Jedi focus so much on that meditate, calmness, one nirvana, more or less.
Yeah, well, it's a really similar idea, just more of a magical element
Mm-hmm.
with it when you get to the Force. Um, and even a lot of it really is parallel to the kind of that idea of Buddhism,
Yeah.
to being one with the universe, with the essence of life, till you get to the point to where you literally become the Force, or and you can transcend things. You can,
You're right.
do mystical abilities that rumored, and you got to separate yourself from everything, wearing the
Yeah.
brown clothing.
It's the ultimate goal of both sides. One wants to become one with the Force, and one wants to control it so fiercely that they can't ever be killed.
But it's so funny. The Sith almost become. They want to use it so much they almost literally become the essence of the dark side.
Then
They
that
literally,
is
yeah.
that's the beautiful irony of the dark side. It burns so brightly because it will take you with it, like
But it's
all of it.
yeah, and then they end up becoming. They think they're using it, but in a way, they end up being controlled by it,
Yep.
and they don't realize it. That's the funny part.
That's the best. That's why, like, I love the iconography, and I still love how cool it sounds. The Sith code sounds cool. I know it's not. It's based after evil stuff. Duh, it's evil people. But it sounds cool when you're like, I will break my chains by gaining power and stuff. But then they gain the biggest chain of their entire life, which is the corruption that's within them now. And if they don't continue diving deeper and deeper into the dark side, it's like really bad drug abuse. You have to
Yeah,
you have to chase that
they
high
can't.
for the rest of your life.
There's not been a Sith that's really said, you know what, I'm just gonna stop.
Right. A Jedi can look at the Force and go, you know what, man? I want to have a family. I want to live on a farm and do nothing. And they can just leave and, okay, cool, bye. You can't do that as the dark side. If you just, like, halfway through, just up and left, your master will be like, that's not allowed, and kill you.
So, yeah, or they still pursue the dark side when they leave you too. You
Yeah.
hardly ever see a Sith really fully abandon the dark side, or even a dark side user if we want to get rid of the term Sith.
Right.
I don't know. There's very little that they've ever fully, because once you kind of, it's always a kind of idea. Once you get the taste of it, you kind of are stuck with it at that point. Even we Jedi that have touched the dark side.
That is why I always look forward to any time future media stories and comics and things start to touch on dark side and Sith powers and dark side teachings, because there are so many other sects of the dark side too. I would love to know how they are able to teach their people without falling victim to the this swath that is the Sith. Because I've always felt like, if the Force is seen by a lot or described by a lot as like a river, the Jedi float down it. A dark sider tries to force it to go a different way, and the Sith just build a giant dam. And they're like, no, this is all my Force now. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, you get to see that when you look at it. The Jedi that do kind of go over, still they may stay. We kind of get that in the High Republic, with what's his name?
How did I'm not gonna blank on one of my favorite Jedi ever. It's the guy from Velo. He throws everything around. Yeah. He uses the dark side a lot.
Well, he gets tempted originally, and then he gets.
Elzar Man. His name is Elzar Man. I don't know why. Why is that effective? How do you?
He's so tempted to use it because it's so much easier. I mean, that was the whole point of him throwing the stages. I don't know what the platforms.
Yes, the floating cities or floating platforms in Valo.
It was easier to do it with the dark side than with the. Which is funny, is your analogy. It sounds easier to float down the river than it is to stop the river, but it seems like with the dark side, it's a much shorter path. To start with.
Because that's the weird thing about the dark side. The ultimate goal of the Sith, the ultimate goal of the dark side is to just burn down things and continue the circle of life. That's the dark side. The Sith, on the other hand, want to control the Force to become like gods, to become without death, to become without need of anything, and just be true celestial beings. So that's why, they build a dam to harness the power, and it's short-sighted, because then everything in front of them dies because it's not getting any more water.
And I guess that's when you kind of argue, when you go to the argument and kind of goes against what some people have said about, is the dark side actually fully evil?
Yeah.
Because, think about if Elzar Man didn't throw those platforms, it would have been way worse off.
And see, and that's the thing is, to me, what Elzar did is the dark side. What the Sith do is different, so much more. Elzar Man was like, I have to. I think the thing that separates the dark side and touching it is when a Jedi like Elzar Man can then go, okay, that was easy and it was effective and it worked. That does not mean I can use it. It's like, just because a gun will help you get the guy to leave you alone doesn't mean just because you can just pop him.
Well, the problem is, and he had that problem, is the problem when you use that said gun.
Yeah,
it's very addicting.
And it becomes super easy for the second time, and then even easier for the third time.
To get rid of all source of connection to the Force for him to.
Yep.
Because he was too scared that he'd touch it again.
And he does. And then he does. Again, yeah. And then And when you get to the third book in the first phase, there's just Elzar Man. I won't say ruins everything, but he sure does a bad job.
Yeah, I hope that we get to see some real characters that are able to go back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I'll be excited to see what Elzar talks about, because the Shadows of Starlight comic should be coming out in October, and that one takes place directly after the fall. So I'm hoping we get to hear more about Elzar.
When we get out of this strike, and we can talk about current events, it'll definitely be a good subject to talk about, because we do see a mixture in this show.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of the show, canon-wise, we don't see too much of it's okay to do a mix of both.
Oh yeah.
We see a couple characters kind of skirt it, and we have one Jedi that had turned to the dark side and went back, but Did he fully go back? We don't ever get the full answer, and that's Quinlan.
Yeah.
Um,
Quinlan Voss
they
is
don't.
definitely a good one, and it's almost like Cal Kestis though. Once you get to the end of Survivor,
Yeah.
Cal Kestis is the
Well,
same way. Cal Kestis embraced that darkness. Again, spoilers for Survivor.
Well, yeah, but is that fully considered canon for his character? And is he?
Yeah,
Is
because that is
full
the
canon?
story. Yeah,
His story. Okay, I wasn't sure if the video game was fully canon or not.
it is. It just doesn't touch anything yet. That's why it's easy to make it canon. But yeah, no, it's a canon story. So in towards the end of Survivor, he touches the dark side and has to use it to take down other dark side users. It's it's a useful tool, but again, it's a tool that if you use it too often, it becomes too easy to use. It's like for some reason, it's like the more you use it, instead of like okay, the first time you pull the trigger on the dark side, it's just easier to think about how quick that was, and then like by the fourth time, it's taped to your hand, and now you're just holding the dark side, and you can't let go of it now.
We could also argue, and it's hard to tell because we can't see what's actually going on, and we don't hear him say anything. But
Yeah,
there's a few times that it feels like Grogu's touched the dark side.
I mean he force chokes Cara Dune because she's winning at arm wrestling. That's it, just arm wrestling.
And that wasn't the only time too.
Yeah,
It feels like a lot of his big, except for the Mudhorn, a lot of his later big stuff. I kind of feel like that was more the dark side. We start seeing him actually using the Force again. Because I don't think he fully learned full control over it. They say he does, but
yeah.
I think he's been taking the shortcut on that one.
Which to me is like again, then we get into this nice philosophical debate of when you are a student that young and you've not really been taught the right from wrong, you and your Mando dad are gonna be kind of slaying around the galaxy anyway, taking in bounties and stuff like that. He doesn't think that's when right and wrong is entirely your perspective of how you were raised. Like,
well, and you also got to weigh in his trauma that he's dealt with.
Yeah,
he's dealt with a ton of trauma. I mean, he lived through the
Great Order 66.
Yeah. He lived through that and saw people in front of him just murdered.
Yeah.
The fact that it had to affect that's the reason why he still doesn't fully talk.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should at least be able to talk by now, but who knows?
I would hope by the next Mandalorian season that he'll be talking a little bit more, if nothing else.
This is the only thing I can think they would to make the argument is that he's just stunted from trauma, which is an actual thing.
I'm curious if he's going to continue his lessons at all and still be a student in the Force. Yeah. Maybe he'll find someone who will teach him. It's like a Cal Kestis. I mean, Cal Kestis wouldn't give a shit at all if he's light side, dark side, as long as he's not evil. Like, just don't do bad things with the Force and whatever, man.
Well, I think we're only getting one more season of Grogu before the movie.
I think so, but yeah, that was the other thing. Is I was
that's the idea.
Yeah, I know that movie's going to be like the big culmination of all of it.
Hopefully, that won't be the full end of Grogu's story.
Right.
Hopefully, we end up seeing it in books or something. I don't think. I mean, I've been wrong before seeing him in the new movies, but if they want to get fans in the movies, that'd be one way to do it.
It'd be an easy way. Continue to have Grogu in the new Rey story saga, and that will bring people in who love Grogu.
I don't know if I would accept Grogu as a teacher in my Jedi Academy. At first, I think it'd be a good idea.
And then he'd start force choking people and eating frogs, and he'd be like, "Bro, calm down." He'd be like,
"Yeah,
no, what?"
He's the chopper of Jedi.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that's the thing with Rey too. I really hope with this new teachings of Jedi, the new Padawans to come out. I really hope that they're not as dogmatic. That's the thing, is she's supposed to bring this new Jedi Order and hopefully bring back like the new Golden Age, the new High Republic in a sense.
They mirrored Luke's kind of touch into the dark side, though she kind of touches it more than Luke really does.
I mean, she fights her own like dark side visage, a very dark side of her.
Yeah, well, like I said, they did that with Luke.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. He fights Vader, finds out it's him.
It seems a lot darker with her,
which
I like.
Which comes from Palpatine's blood, of course.
I don't necessarily think it has to be necessarily hereditary connection.
True. The Force actually,
Being
yeah, I guess that's
dark
true. But he's just so evil. He's
to
the
be
evil. Blah.
to be a Jedi in that time, it's got to be hard not to.
Mhm.
Um, especially when there's no one to go off of,
Yeah.
and the only person you got to go off of is supposed to be the greatest Jedi to remain living, and he's chugging milk,
But I mean,
going
think
nuts
about
like
it
Yoda
too.
did.
When we have Rey's New Order, if the other people do show up, if we do have Ezra or Cal Kestis or Grogu there to help Rey teach these new like sect of students, they're gonna be
Man,
getting some very weird lessons that a lot of other Jedi would have never
probably
gotten.
Ezra's gonna be like in his 50s by then, right?
Yeah, but it's possible. I mean, I feel like Ezra will be the most calm.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's actually think
Oh,
about
yeah, that's what I'm
this.
saying. And he's
Cal's
touched
gonna
the
be
dark side.
Cal's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
don't-
a well.
that's a
He's gonna be
fun Master and
50
Apprentice we
because
didn't touch on it if you think about it.
canon, yeah.
Well, he had Maul as a master at
He
one
did
time.
actually, yes. He has been taught by both light and dark side masters. That is a very good point.
Yeah. I don't know what, because we don't really know what how much later it's gonna be.
True.
It can't be too much with the actress,
Yeah.
so I'd be interesting to see
Right.
the time difference between Ezra now. Well, we perceive him as our current
And
present
hey,
time.
Rey saved the super special book, I think, that had force healing in it, right? Or at least she knows force healing. So, like, we can teach the next sect of Jedi how to force heal. So, no more
Yeah.
people have to die from being stabbed in the chest. No more Qui-Gons. It's no longer going to be a super rare,
Yeah.
hard to do thing, all right? It's going to be widely accepted. All Jedi must learn Jedi healing.
Man, that death knell does not look as sad anymore.
To a sense, but he also got stabbed. Like I like to believe, I'm in camp. He got stabbed like way higher. It wasn't like in the guts like everyone else. He got stabbed like in the sternum because the lightsaber was going up. It wasn't like this. It was like that because Darth Maul's much shorter than Qui-Gon. Ray Parks is a lot shorter than Liam Neeson. So
Well, any stab in your torso is
Yeah.
not a friendly stab.
right. And if you only have a Padawan who apparently has not learned any force healing near you, you ain't gonna make it. Cauterized guts will still kill you before you can make it to a
Well,
back to tank.
it's unlike a lot of movies will show you getting wounded in the gut unless you have quick medical care
Mhm.
is not very survivable.
Right.
And I'm talking about immediate medical care.
Yeah. Immediate. Like you have to be able to like really do some serious stuff right then and there.
You have to plug the hole with some gauze,
Ooh.
and you have to put pressure on the wound.
Yep.
And
You cannot relieve pressure until you get to the place where you're allowed to start working on it.
You can't move them until you get medical attention immediately. And then if it's any higher, then you got to make another hole.
And the whole time he's dying while his apprentice is fighting for his life. So it's not like he immediately even got Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan had to kill Darth Maul before he could even get to him.
I feel like they should have done a bit better when we
Mhm.
get to the survivable stab wounds. Is what's her name from Obi-Wan? I feel like they could
Reva.
have done better explaining how she survived that.
Bro, she got
Like,
stabbed.
just like
It happened twice.
it just kind of like happens in the background. Oh wait, she's still alive.
Yeah.
And, well, she gets up and chases after. I know she's supposed to be fueled by the dark side, but
Right.
there's still a point when that high goes down and she just blood comes everywhere.
Right. It's almost like it's like an
they-
anime moment where she just like coughs up a little and then it splurts out.
Done something to help, because at that point it's you lose a lot of faith in
Mhm.
fans, and it does seem very like you're just trying to. Why do the wound in the first place if you want her to survive? Is really the
Yeah.
argument in that one. Get her cut real bad, or get her.
Falling to a great height to where they think she dies because I would
Yeah.
feel like Anakin would have been a little bit more precise. Like it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe
But
he
it's
couldn't
still a
feel.
good stab. It's
Yeah.
just- yeah. That was a very unbelievable moment. I wish they did differently. I get what they were going at.
Mhm.
I get the whole point where she's to a point where she's so angry and she's got so much baggage, and that's what's fueling her.
Yeah.
But there's to a point where, because there's a long time between how she somehow gets medical aid,
Yeah.
because she literally like goes down the corridor after she got stabbed, if you remember, chasing after him, and, yeah, it would, and there's no immediate medical help for where she currently is
Right.
either. She doesn't have the Empire to go back to. She doesn't have,
So when she finally reawakens from whatever coma she might have slipped into, she's then like still has to sneak away from the clone troopers that are probably still in the temple, sneak off of Coruscant because no one's going to help her. She's a Jedi wearing Jedi robes.
that wasn't the best thing for them to write.
Yeah, but I
get,
love the
yeah,
like I said, I love the idea of it.
yeah.
And again, maybe if she had like fallen from a height and like hit a truck, flying by a truck, going by ship,
uh,
something like that.
I think would have been a cool one for them to do is cut a hand off,
Oh
and then
yeah.
you deal with that, because that was more believable. She can try to stop it temporarily, pass out from shock, and
Mm-hmm.
then we get the reveal later on when she goes back and she's thinking about the past and she pulls off her glove and you can see,
Yeah.
the robot hand. That would have been a lot cooler and a lot more believable, than that part when she gets killed originally.
Mm.
Well, not killed, sorry. It should have been killed. And then we see another later gut wound, but won't go into that one. That's still kind of not believable, but I won't go into that
Well, and
because
the kind
too
of talking
abstract.
about, to a degree, what they were, the Inquisitors. That's a very different
Yeah,
sect of tutelage in the dark side.
yeah,
They were allowed to like read dark side texts. They were allowed to learn whatever they could pretty much teach themselves. But if they got too powerful, they had to worry about
yeah.
Vader or Palpatine killing them. But then, like, they were allowed to, they were very free roam, especially with this recent book. I highly recommend The Rise of the Red Blade. You learned that, yeah, the Inquisitors were, they would get a mission, and then in between missions, they were kind of allowed to do whatever they wanted.
Well, they get some pretty rough training to get
Yes.
to that point, though.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, and they have their
Starvations,
hideout.
beatings, torture. You have to go kill a bunch of innocent people just to prove you can.
Yeah, it's pretty dark what they
Yeah.
go through. And well,
Unless you're very evil. If you already have the dark side
yeah,
inside of you, then Palpatine won't torture you. But if not, then he'll torture it into you.
um, yeah. The Inquisitors are kind of a. I like the idea of it because it
Mm-hmm.
brings. They brought back the later idea of the. I think the Code Vader's chosen
Oh, okay, yeah.
the red, the like the Empire Imperial Knights, I believe what they're called.
That sounds about right.
They had red armor. They were like the early Inquisitors, back in non-canon, when before Disney.
Yeah.
That was the idea of them, and they were basically their version of Inquisitors, with cheesy bright red armor.
And like white lightsabers.
Yeah, yeah. It would not
And
look
they,
good on
and you know
film.
what? They
It
couldn't
would look.
fly though. Not like Inquisitors. Inquisitors can fly, okay?
You could have just force jumped. You didn't have to do that.
An Inquisitor can
God.
fly, bro, okay?
But yeah, we're speaking about her. The wound had made no sense.
How about the
That's
lightsaber
more.
that makes no
That's
sense?
more believable than it's like it's like they were like in the room, like writing that episode, right?
Yeah.
And their kid walks in and goes, "Oh, that's a cool lightsaber." Or he's just like drawing it or like coming up with the idea. He goes, "Can it fly like a helicopter?"
You sure can, buddy.
No, no. I want it to fly like a helicopter. Okay, it's gonna fly like a helicopter.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, let's see, like the way that Ahsoka deals with it in Tales of the Jedi, the way that they're dealt with in the comics and in the books,
Yeah.
that spinning, rotating blade honestly does not do very good, except for intimidating normals, like normal people who don't normally fight with a lightsaber or deal with the
Tales
Force.
of the Jedi, when they do them with the village, is so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The how just the people look when they deal with other non like protagonists. they are very intimidating.
Yeah.
They're very awesome. But when you get put up from protagonist, and that's kind of like a running
Yeah.
thing with Star Wars, they kind of becoming jokes.
Yep.
And that's kind of the family friendly. So sometimes it kind of gets annoying.
And that
You
was
make
one of
this
the good things
awesome
about
character, and it's like
yeah.
normal people are like terrified, just like the stormtroopers.
Yep. Normal people are terrified of stormtroopers, but they cannot touch you if your
They're,
last name's
yeah,
Skywalker.
they're devastating. They're powerful. The TIE fighters are powerful.
Yep.
They're the reason why the Imperial Navy is so powerful. Is the TIE fighter presence really rules the galaxy.
Yeah, but even in the
And
face of a
then
Padawan, they just can't really do anything.
you stick one kid in a X-wing and they're nothing, or you stick a kid in a gunner seat of
Yeah.
a ship he's never sat in before, and he's like, it's just like shooting womp rats at home.
Yeah.
It's a video game. I've had one of those.
Yeah, I've always thought that was hilarious how they could just, but you have to have protagonists win, or of course there's no story.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing more Padawans in the future. I really do hope that the future of Star Wars has an awesome amount of the new Jedi Order. We're gonna have to see new Sith. I don't get rid of the Sith. They're not going to. I think that would be stupid to like kill the Sith off entirely. Somebody's going to covet Sith technology or something.
I like the idea they did it in the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
They just messed it up along the way. I like the idea that the Sith Order was hiding behind everything.
Yeah.
That we thought we had a different presence. I love that. I love the idea we have a new enemy. I mean, they're basically the same thing, just repainted. Slightly different.
Yeah.
But still, it's a different enemy. It's a different character, Snoke.
I enjoyed the Sith Eternal Empire, like how even though I didn't like that Palpatine was back the way he was, when he had that cult of followers in that giant throne room, that was cool.
Well, when we revealed that the First Order is actually being puppeted essentially by the Sith Empire, really kind of almost reminded me of the Old Republic Sith Empire, how it was handled, and that was really awesome.
And the Sith troopers, I like that red armor. That red armor was dope.
It got really unawesome very quickly once the paint started to peel off. We started to realize it wasn't as cool as they could have been.
Yeah.
Sadly, and just miscommunication. I don't know what happened, but the idea of Snoke and the idea of this mysterious, actually just this hidden. I hope we see something similar, just done a lot better.
Yeah.
I want to see this. I agree with you, but I want to see kind of the Sith when we get in, like I said, in the Clone Wars, when we get into where they're hidden behind another force, and then we get to the last movie, and then we start trickling down. There's this mysterious character that doesn't take his reveal his face immediately. And if he does, it's like Darth Maul when he reveals his face. That kind of thing.
Yeah. He's got two fucking lightsaber blades. What the hell? I love one of the best moments ever, that two-sided ignition.
Dude, I
agree with everything up to the fact though that I don't want it to be like Bane's Sith. I want what I imagine is an ancient Sith Lord or some ancient Sith ghost is either going to be resurrected or like possess somebody.
It should have died with Sidious.
Yeah, and then we can get back to then we get this awesome new order where this guy is building this empire in the far fringes of like unknown space, yada yada, and then it becomes a threat towards this new republic. Because
this like ancient Sith presence has just been waiting for Sidious to go away.
Hey, maybe it'll be like the old Sith Empire, and they'll have the Chiss with them, and that'll have like that'll mean they'll have all of the Chiss space, all of the unknown regions. That'd already be a large empire for the Sith to control.
I mean, we've already stepped outside the galaxy. Outer Rim. We've already heard about it with other books, stepping outside the galaxy. So it's not too far-fetched. And that would be a cool idea to have, like I said, the Empire and Sidious are gone.
Yeah.
With them gone, now, an ancient Sith that's been brooding in the background, presence can now try to take over.
Yeah.
it'd be cool. I'd like to see. I don't want to see. If I do see the big bad, I'd like it to be more of a Sith Council,
Yeah,
kind of like a
a
group
triumvirate
that
or something. Yeah,
kind of like they're doing in the Mandalorian with the Imperial Secret Council.
yeah.
With the Sith and a lot cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So the Dark Council, pretty much. But
yeah,
there's going to be some infighting, so we're going to have that. So don't worry, they'll whittle themselves kind of down a little bit, but there's there's always going to be the one main guy who's more powerful than everyone else, and then the others who are trying to get that power, and they all can have apprentices.
yeah.
They all could have their own little they're
Even
like dukes with their own little land, their own planet.
well, yeah, similar to how they do with the new Imperial
Yeah.
remnants, where they're kind of bickering with each other, but
Hmm.
they still respect each other. They still hold. They're all unique. I really like that aspect though. They kind of make it a joke, and it does make sense that some of them are a joke.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it would be cool to see something like that. But if we do get it, I want to see trickles. I
Hmm.
don't want to get it immediately right away.
Yeah.
I want to be. I want to see the fan theories fly. I want to. That's
Honestly,
one of the
I
cool
think it
things
would be
about Star Wars, like with
yeah.
Darth
Oh,
Vader.
dude,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Fan
it's a
theories are great.
mystery. Is
I think one of the best ways to show that Rey is a new Jedi Master in a new world would be for a slow trickle. Yes, like you said, towards the end of the first movie, one of her apprentices comes back and goes, "I swear I was just in a fight with someone with a red lightsaber. I barely escaped with my life. I didn't see their face. I have no idea who they are, but I know I saw a red lightsaber." And for her, unlike Yoda, unlike everyone that came before her, to literally look at the apprentice and go, "Oh dear. Well, if they've returned, we should be ready. We should all get ready."
or it'd be cool to have like they build up when we get to this final battle
Hmm.
with the new temporary the new stormtrooper, the new whatever.
Yeah.
They get in a fight and they're starting to try to take over, and Rey leads this resistance with her new temple leading the charge.
Yeah.
And so we get them and they win the battle. The day pans over, somebody walks in the dark room. The Jedi have returned. That
Yeah.
because it's a new order, so like the Jedi have returned. So they're like, and then you see the faces. They look at each other, and then it's like, now it's time for us,
Now it's us to return, and the red lightsaber ignites.
And it's like they'll all like they all one at a time do it, and there's like different blades.
Ooh, and even see, hey, even better. Then from that, Rey loses. Like a few of her hot-headed apprentices go and rush the guy. He takes him down, no problem. So now she has to cope with, oh no, I could lose apprentices to the dark side or just to dying to these people.
Well, no,
so I have to be
first
like,
movie, I want it to end at the council. I
yeah,
don't want it
yeah.
to be
No,
the
that's
same-
fine. That's fine. But
the end
I'm
in
just
a
saying
separate area,
that would be so cool though, because it has
Well,
to.
that would be
There
that'd
has to be a few Jedi hotheads who rush the new
that'd be
Sith
movie
baddie.
two.
Yeah, exactly.
Movie one is kind of getting the order together and kind of this initial conflict and winning
Yeah.
the day. Yeah, we win, and then boom, real bad guy shows up at the very end. And then second movie is the conflict of the underlying evil that's seeping in, and her kind of fighting with the idea of, can I keep this together when there's this Sith coming in and all this stuff. And then last movie is like, we know who the bad guy is, now we're gonna have to stop them before
Yep.
they take over the galaxy.
You're right.
With Death Star number 4.
We have to reseal them into the Star Forge.
This time this Death Star, it destroys the galaxy in one blow.
Yeah, it just takes out the entire center of the galaxy.
How
Just
bigger
one hit.
can we go?
Yeah. That's the size of an entire solar system. Oh my gosh.
That's no sun.
That's no Giants class star.
Because we did a moon, we did a slightly bigger moon, then we did a planet.
Now we gotta do a star. The whole star. The
An
star.
actual
Oh, dude, the Star Forge.
An actual Death Star.
Yeah. No, I look forward though. I really that's the biggest thing is the Sith need to be trickled in. The new Jedi Order needs to be more.
We need the same feel. We get that. We get that.
The High Republic shows exactly what the Jedi
same
should
thing.
feel like. Right.
We don't. Yeah, we don't need the same thing. The only Palpatine I want to see on the screen, has changed their last name because she does want to be associated with that family.
Yeah, and she's now Skywalker, and that's okay.
The only thing I want to. I don't even want to hear the word on the screen.
Yep.
I don't want to see another stormtrooper.
I don't want to. I don't want to fucking see Vader. I don't want to. I don't.
The only First Order thing I want to see is occasionally somebody wearing the remnants of the armor.
Right, that's like some bandit guy in the background who's like, "Oh, I'm just a bounty hunter now, and I just wear this because it's what I found."
I don't want to see the First Order. I want them gone.
I don't want to see a single. I don't want to see a single Imperial hat. I don't want to see a single one of those fucking hats, except for like hanging on someone's wall. Is like, oh yeah, I used to be an imp. I gave that up. How cool would that be? If he somehow lives through Phase 3 of the High Republic, that would be amazing.
The problem is he's gotten rid of all this fun soldiers.
So oh yeah, now it's just his mindless drones. So that's probably what's going to do him in. Come, it looks like Lorna D might even be working with the Jedi come Phase 3.
I don't think she'll necessarily work with him.
Well, she would. It's like the enemy of my enemy, and she would rather kill Marchion than work for him.
She's too chaotic to really work alongside. She's like, you're here, we'll work together, but if my knife slips, it slips.
Oopsies.
That's Lorna D for you.
Yeah. But no, the apprentices. Before we get too crazy off,
we already left that.
Right. Yeah. The apprentices of the Jedi Order are a very fun thing to dive into because when you read them in books and you hear about them in comics or in movies, they have more of that like slice of life. I'm dealing with my emotions. I'm dealing with who I am as a person. Versus Sith apprentices who are like, I'm literally trying to survive Hell Week as a Navy SEAL. I don't have time to care about how I feel. I need to make sure I have feeling left in my feet so I can run when this Rancor gets set off on me, and I'm only allowed to use this rock to kill it.
The idea of the apprentice is so embedded in Star Wars. It is the original idea of Star Wars. In Episode 4 with Luke and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It is the epitome of what makes us so interested in Jedis and lightsabers and Sith. That it literally starts a lot of Star Wars with.
It has almost completely taken over the wise old wizard trope, because that's what it is. This is in the hero's journey. Obi-Wan was the wise old hero who teaches the knight how to become the best hero possible. But it's become so synonymous and so culturally huge. Yeah. Now it's master and apprentice. Like now that's literally a thing. You hear it in so many other movies, from Clerks and like other nerdy movies, when someone's talking to someone else about something that they're like teaching them, like, my apprentice, my Padawan. So it's now a cultural reference, and that's the best thing about it is it has taken that effect. So it's always that idea that they kind of implanted, and it's a huge trope now in fantasy, and it kind of predated Star Wars, but Star Wars really made it popular. Yes.
The idea of the nobody somehow being chosen by the wise old hermit that lived on the stretches of the town you grew up in. It ended up being this ancient war hero that's going to teach you to be this mighty hero.
Yep.
To make you this special magical warrior that you were always meant to be.
Yes, exactly.
So all you had to do to get there is carry an old green guy on your back.
Yeah. So if you ever find one, a mysterious old green short man in the woods, just carry him around, do what he says, you'll become very powerful.
Don't leave him near your children, he might eat them.
Yeah, just don't do that though. Yeah, don't do that. Or seagulls. He apparently hates seagulls. All right, guys, before we get any crazier, thank you all so much for joining us. Make sure to leave your favorite Master and Apprentice combo in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and share this podcast so our community can continue to grow. Those of you who are here, thank you. Those of you who are new, thank you for coming. Make sure to hit us up in the comment section as soon as you can if you join us live, because we'd love to talk to you all. Have an amazing rest of your evening, and as always, may the Force serve you well.
May the Force be with you.
Yeah.